Sutra of the Shiva Sutras of the second chapter, Saktopaya, and the seventh sutra was Matrika Chakra Sambodha. So Guru Rupaya was the previous thing. We have already done two satsangs on this particular sutra because it's so powerful and it is loaded with multiple layers of meanings. That how, unlike in any other school of thought, like for example in Vedanta, the Kashmiri Saivism puts a lot of emphasis on Sakti, and without which its spiritual ascension is almost impossible. Therefore, he's saying that to understand this whole Srishti and to enter into the subtle uh, reality of how the evolution has happened and how can we reconnect with the pure consciousness, which is our essential nature, we have to move through an understanding and to work with these different Shaktis which are working. Therefore, he's saying that, Sakti Chakra Sandhane Vishwa Sangharaha was one of the earlier sutras in the first chapter in the, Sambhavopaya. This is Saktopaya. So, what is this Matrika Chakra? Then we had a long lecture based on the Shiva Sutra Vimarshini in the last class, in which we discussed starting with O till Ksha. All these are Varna Matrikas, and there is a lot of secret meaning and power associated with all these swaras and all these Vyanjana Varnas, and there are categorized into different classes of Varnas. So you have Avarga, the Swara Varnas. So these are Vijas, these are like seed, and Vyanjana Varnas are like Yoni. So you have that Shiva and Shakti principle. So Ka till Ksha, these are like Yonis. How? Because whatever words we are creating with the help of Swara Varna and Vyanjana Varna. But Ka is not Vyanjana Varna. Ka is Vyanjana Varna. And without Swara, it doesn't produce anything. So whatever we produce with the help of Swara and Vyanjana together. That is what we have already. Therefore, he says, Akaraha Sarva Varna Griha. So it is ahead of all the Varnas. And that Aham Ityekam Advaitam Yat Prakasatma Vibhramaha. So this Aham and Idam, that A and Ha, within this the whole samsara, the whole universe is there. Therefore, we had a lot of discussion on it. I am not going to repeat anything, but I would just like to briefly say there is something called Antar Vimarshana and Bahir Vimarshana. Yesterday we have already discussed in the last class. You have A, I, U, Ru, Ru. So in Panini, that will be A, I, Un, Ru, Ru. These are the first two Maheshwara sutras. So these are the pure swaras. A, I, O, these are mixed vowels, right? And then you have Antastas like Ya, Ra, La, Va, and all that. So from here, and then from Ka starts the Vyanjana Varna. So Ka Varga, Ka, Ka, Ga, Ga. So now he's saying each Sakti is that pure Sakti is divided into 5 parts. What are these 5 parts? Like you say, what is Sakti becomes a Kanchuka, a veiling power at the level of Maya. Okay, so you have Shiva and then Shakti, and then Sadasiva, then you have Suddha Vidya. Sorry, Ishwara, and then Suddha Vidya. These 5 elements are pure tattvas. These are very pure. First is Shiva, the Parama Shiva, then Mahashakti, Parashakti, and then you have this Sadashiva tattva. Just below Shakti, and then you have Ishwara tattva. See, some delusion is already coming to is Suddha, but you see there is some name and form, something coming to Ishvara. And then you have Suddha Vidya. Suddha Vidya is a level where there is Bheda and Abheda together. Abhedatmak, but there is some Bheda, because in order to do any Upasana and meditation, you have to have some bit of a very subtle duality. It's in Shaktopaya, that is what it is, Bheda and Abheda. Bhedatmaka and Abhedatmaka. Through meditation, you want to reunite with that Shiva Tattva, but through Sakti Upasana, any Upasana requires a Upasaka and Upasya. So there is some kind of a Bheda Vritti in your meditation. So what he is trying to say is that, so you have Chit Sakti, Ananda Sakti, Ichha Sakti, Jnana Sakti, and Kriya Sakti. That's some bit Chit Sakti, Ananda Sakti, then Jnana, Icha, then Jnana, then Kriya. And then they become 5 veiling powers. All these 5 suddenly change. Below, they will start doing other kinds of things. What? That whatever was Chit Shakti, that will become Niyati. Whatever was Ananda Shakti will become Kala. Kala is again, it's Kala is kind of restricted. It's not unlimited like Ananda. It becomes restricted. And then Icha becomes Raga, a special kind of attraction. And Jnana becomes Vidya. And what is Kriya becomes Kala. That is how the Pancha Kanchuka Kanchuka, 5 veils of Maya. Now, what we understood in the last class is that this A, I, U, Ru, Ru, you can opposite another this Ka Varga, then Kha Varga, then Ka Varga, then Cha Varga, then Ta Varga, then Ta Varga, and Pa Varga. You can put like this, so A, Ka Varga. So, in Panini grammar, for example, when we study Akuha Visarjanyanam Kantaha. So, what is the Utpatti sthan of A, Ka? Kant se nikalta hai. So, this is which we speak from the throat. So similarly, they can be categorized according to the place of origin of these vargas. And one Swaravarna is linked with Ritu Rashanam Murdha. Ri, R. And you see R, and then similarly, if you can say Litu Lashanam Dantaha, R. So Danta. So for example, Ta, Tha, Da, Da, is coming, you're touching your teeth, sort of when we are mentioning. Similarly, all of them, Ichu Yasanam Talu, right? So all of them, they have a kind of a co-relationship. That is how that we had done. And each of these vargas are also representative of special powers. I will discuss a little about these vargas. So A varga is kind of represented by, everyone has a devata. So all the 15 swaras, it is such a secret science. They are saying, like for example, you have this Pratipada, then you have Ditya, Tritiya, Chaturthi, and finally you have Amavasya or Purnima, isn't it? So they would say that each of them, they are also representing one Tithi, all these 15 Swaravarnas. Very mystical. So they are emerging on one Tithi, and they are representing one power. And therefore he's saying Avarga together, Mahalakshmi, and that is the Adhishtatri Devata, whereas for others, it's represented as Bhairava is the Adhishtatri Devata because of A. And Ka Varga is Brahmi, Cha Varga is Maheshwari, Ta Varga is Kaumari, Ta Varga is Vaishnavi, Pa Varga is Varahi, Ya Varga is Aindri, and Ya Ra La Va, and Sa Sa Sa. So that is Ushma, that is Chamunda. Now you flip it. You have the Saptamatrika Pujanam. So Saptamatrikas are what? Same way, and there are different disha, different konas or directions in which these powers are propitiated. So you have Brahmi, Maheshwari, Kaumari, Vaishnavi, Varahi, Indrani, Chamunda. What is missing here? Lakshmi is removed because she's actually the Bhairava thing for others. So these are the Saptamatrikas, and all of them actually, and then Ashtavargya Devata. So there is a lot of details in it. I just want to touch upon a little of it because we can go on and we'll never go beyond the sutra if we get too obsessed with it. Just Ka Varga, they say that all the Panchabhutas are represented by them. Ka, Kha. You know what is Kha? Kha is Akasa. You see? So Khaga means bird. So Khagapati is Vishnu because he's sitting on a bird, Garuda. So Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. These are, so starting with Prithvi, and then these Vayu Tattva, Agni Tattva, the Panchabhutas are represented by the what is called Ka Varga. In grammar, they call it Ku. That is the Ka Varga. And similarly, the Cha Varga is representing the Pancha Tanmatras. Savada, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha. These are the 5 Tanmatras they represent. And Ta, Tha, Da, Dhana, what are they representing? They are saying all the 5 Karmendriyas you have. Remember, all these Karmendriyas are coming from one of these Tanmatras, end of the day. Sukshma Bhutas, they're coming out of that. So he's saying ta, tha, da, dha, na, they are represented by, for example, feet comes out the fire tattva. That we have discussed earlier when we were doing Vivek Chudamani. So the sta varga representing all the karmendriyas. And ta, tha, da, dha, na. So prana and until the sutra, so they are representing what are the jnanendriyas. You have the darshanendriya, shravanendriya, sparshendriya, tvacha, and similarly Ghanendriya, the nose, and then you have the Rasanendriya, the tongue. All these are represented by the Ta Varga. And Pa Varga, so Mana Buddhi, Ahankara, Prakriti, Purusha Tattva. These are the five tattvas represented by the Pa Varga. And Yaralava, so Raga, Vidya, Kala, Maya, Antastha Varnas. And they are representing. You remember? Antastha Varna, we had discussed in the last thing that they have no, they are kind of the re and re, they don't have any vikara. Similarly, the ya, ra, la, va, they are kind of considered to be the foundation, as if they are holding this whole thing. So these are raga, vidya, kala, maya. And what are the ushma varna, sasa, saha? So they are mahamaya, suddha vidya, ishvara, sadasiva. Mahamaya is actually the pure tattva. C is the combination of all the Shaktis. Mahamaya and Suddha Vidya is that fifth tattva. And Ishwara is the fourth tattva. Sadasiva is the third tattva. Paramashiva and Shakti. Remember, the Paramashiva is not included here. It will come in the end. Here is Shakti. Okay? And Swaravarna, that is Bhairava, that is Shiva. See, these varnas, these 51 varnas, are representing all the 36 tattvas that we study in the Kashmiri Saivism. They have a total of 36 tattvas and they are represented by these 51 letters. So you have Shiva Tattva from A until Visharga, Pancha Bhuta Panchaka, and all the Ka Kha Ga Gha, Tanmatra Panchaka Cha, and a Karma Aksha Panchaka, that is Ta Varga, and Buddhi Karana Panchaka, Mana Buddhi, Chitta Ahankara, that is Pa Varga, and Raga Vidya Kala Maya, they are in the Pa Varga. Okay, Yara Lava, so Raga Vidya Kala Maya, that is the Ya Varga, and Sha Varga, ultimately the Ushma thing, that they are the Maya, Suddha Vidya, Ishwara, and Sadativa. By the way, these are all Suddha. You see, they are all Suddha, and you have the Asuddha are below this, starting from Prithvi, that we will discuss, Prithvi Tattva, starting with Prithvi Tattva until Maya. That point, you will have the Asuddha because they are impure. And that is how, by understanding this Matrika Chakra Sambodha, having a comprehensive understanding, all the mantras are also created. We will also have a little, and then finally, after this, the whole Srishti Prakriya, he mentions that, there is something called a concept of Sadadhva. Sadadhva is what you have. Adhva is Marga. Sadadhva is Sabdamai and Arthamai. The whole Sansara is either Sabdatmaka or Arthatmaka. Arthatmaka is something which is ontological. Sabdatmaka is what we, what we speak, and whatever is Sabdatmaka. So, Sabdamaya Sakti, Vimarsha Sakti, and that Artha is concerned with the Shiva Tattva. Therefore, he's saying this whole Sansara, there are Sad Adhva, means there are 6 Margas. And what is this? So, it is the Ardha, that Ardhavaga of the Shiva Tattva, that is Kala Tattva and Bhuvana. Okay, Kala Tattva and Bhuvana. And what is Kala? We have 34. By Kala means part. So, of these Tattvas, Kala Tattvas, in this Kala are 5. What is this? Santyatita, Santi, Vidya, Pratishtha, and Nibriti. These are the 5 Kalas. Okay. Sometimes you say Shodasa Kala. Shodasa Kala is 15 parts over the 1 fortnight. Now coming back here, Tattva is 36. That we have already discussed. Suddha Tattva is Shiva, Shakti, Sadasiva, Ishwara, and Suddha Vidya. Shuddha Vidya, the last one is Veda Vedatmaka. And Suddha Suddha, a mixed. What are these? Suddha Suddha is Maya, Kala, Avidya, Raga, Kala, Niyati, Purusha. These are Suddha Suddha, mixed and Asuddha, starting with Prakriti until Prithvi Tattva. As we have done in Sankhya, all these 24 elements, these are all Asuddha. So, Kala and Tattva, then Bhuvana. Bhuvana, we know Chauda Bhuvana, like Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, Mahajana, Tapa, Satyam, Niche, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. So you have total 7 and 7, 14. Here they are saying there are 224 bhuvanas, domains of existence, according to them. And then you have Sabdamai thing of the creation. What is that Vimarsha Shakti? That half of these, okay? That is called Varna, Mantra, and a Pada. How many Varnas are there? Varna Matrikas, 51. And how many mantras are there? There are 11 major mantras. And how many padas are there? They will say solid one. They have enumerated that 81. So that is how this whole creation, they are trying to create a nomenclature in which they are trying to make sense of it. And there is a very beautiful imagination that this Matrika Devi, there is a Murti Sakti and Kriya Sakti. Now that present Murti Sakti is the one which creates Desakrama, the physical domain, the spatial domain. And then you have the Kriya Sakti, that is Kalakrama. So space and time, Kriya, activity, movement has to do with time, and then its physical spread has to do with space. That is how. And because there are so many great commentators and there's so many elements they have brought into it, that's how it makes a little complicated. And therefore, in one of the texts, it's kind of, there's a warning sign. If you don't understand all this and you try to get into mantra sadhana and do this, he's saying, Adimantya vihinastu mantrahashu saradabhravata. Saradabhrav, the autumnal clouds in the sky do not give us any downpour. They don't give us a shower. They're just there and then they fly away. Or they just vanish into the deep blue. Saradavravata. Gurur Lakshana. Then therefore he's saying what? Adimantya vihinastu mantrashu saradavravata. So they would not give us any benefit. So Adima and Antya, without knowing that and aham, unless we know this whole, the Matrika Chakra, unless we know this whole secret signs of the Varnas, we are not going to make any progress. Gurur Lakshanam etavat Adimantyam cha Vedayet. Is the Guru Rupayaha, that was the previous verse, he's saying the Acharya of the Parampara. We are, of course, trying to do it. But if you go, of course, there was a great preceptor, Lakshman Ju, he has left. There are a few others who are teaching, but the authentic tradition in Kashmir, somehow, unfortunately, it has died because there was no protection. Many of the great Sanskrit books which were published by the Kashmir government and the King of Kashmir earlier, they were kind of sold like scrap. And when I was working on a German Kashmir flood project, I had been there, and some books were kind of thrown away. You could buy them for 5 rupees, 6 rupees, because nobody cared for these invaluable, priceless books. But now they are trying to sort of recover and then reprint them, and it'll take a while before all these things can be regathered. Because for a few decades, there was a lot of disturbance. So, to glorify the stuti of this Matrika Sakti, saying Saya Kriyatmakya Sakti, Sivasya Pasuvartini, Bandhayatri Swamargasta, Gyata Siddhupapadika. See, this Matri Sakti, there is a very fine secret to it. Unless we understand this Matri Sakti, unless we are aware of how it works, how to propitiate, how to show our devotion, how to meditate, we would not be able to benefit from it. So this whole Prakriti, this Maya, or whatever words we are using, whether it is Sankhya or it's Vedanta or this is Kashmiri Saivism, they are saying here, unlike in Vedanta and Sankhya, What Sankhya would say that Purusha Prakriti Bheda, if you have clear understanding, you are not troubled. So Prakriti is a troublemaker, not a troubleshooter. Bhukti, it is doing Bhoga and Apavarga of the Purusha. It will give Bhoga and finally Mukti also. So she is also going to benefit. That is not so much there in Vedanta. Prakriti is basically a troublemaker. So you have to see through the game of Prakriti. Here, what they are saying, it will bind you only until you do not understand how it functions. The moment you understand it, she becomes what? Siddhupapadika. She'll give you siddhi, she'll liberate you. Bandhayatri, Swamargastha. In his own way, it will bind you. When you are blind, you do not know. It's like there's this famous statement by Francis Bacon or somebody, if I remember correctly. He says, we understand the laws of nature to transcend the laws of nature. Until we knew the laws of gravitation or laws of buoyancy, we didn't know how to, fly or swim, or I mean, we could swim, but we didn't know the signs of it. We couldn't fly. So these key secrets were very important. Similarly, saying that unless you know the laws of the Shakti, you never be able to negotiate terms with it to spiritually go to a next higher level. Therefore, there is Mantrana Matrika Devi. You see, all the Mantranam, Matri Chakra Sambodha, that is what he's saying. What is the key thing that you have to understand? Mantrana Matrika Devi. That she is the presiding deity, she is the boss of all this whole samsara. To have a language is to have a world. Remember that whatever we say, even whatever we think with the help of words. And they are saying that, look, so whatever we think, whatever we do, whatever we dream, it's all embedded in language. And these languages ultimately boils down to Varnamatrikas, and they are Sakyatmika, and that Sakti is Shivatmika. Unless we know this subtle circle, we will not come out of this circle of binding process. We're kind of bound up. That's what he's saying. So Mahamaya is above Maya. Okay. And from Mahamaya, Mahavidya, Matrika, Vagishwari. She is the boss. And therefore he's saying, Athopari Mahavidya, Sarva Vidya Bhavad Bhava, Jagataha Pralyotpatti Vibhuti Nidhiravyaya. She is the kind of treasury house of all creative energies, but she's avyaya. There is no vikara in it. Unlike in some schools of thought where we say that Prakriti is vikari, Brahman is avikari. So he's saying avyaya. She's also, you see, even in Vedanta, she's considered to be avyakta, not as avyaya, but actually he's saying that Parasakti, she's avyaya. There is no change, nothing. That Parasakti remains as it is. And Sa Eva Paramadevi Bhagi Siti Nigadyate. She is worshipped as Bhagishwari. Astavarga Vivinnacha Vidya Matrukevatu. And then she manifests as this Astavargas and as presiding deity, mother deities of all these Vargas. Like in Chandi, when you study, as I was saying, in the Durga Saptasati, when Mother Divine is fighting with Shumbha, when he says that you are cheating me, you are so many women trying to kill me, he said, what are you talking about? I'm just myself. There's no second. This whole universe, it's mine. It's my creation. I'm everywhere. What are you talking about? Now see me. I'm alone. Face me. Negotiate the truth with me. That means know your limitations. That is what he's saying. This Astavarga Vivinnacha Vidya Matrukevatu. So that is what we discussed that already. So starting with A, Ka, Cha, Ta, Ta, Pa, Ya, Sha, and then you have that Kya thing. So you have that Navargas. We have discussed this. And this is the most important thing he's saying, that this Matrika is Swatantra. Unless we are going to some other school of thought in which Prakriti or Shakti, it cannot exist on its own. It is always, even here in this school of thought, there can never be the Shiva Tattva without Shakti. There can never be Shakti Tattva without Shiva. Is actually one Tattva, which being made sense of as if they are two different Tattvas. Okay. Now what he's saying, but in other schools of thought, this Prakriti has no real power of its own. But in this school of thought, it is Swatantra. It is autonomous. It's not dependent on anyone. Why? Because in Sankhya it is Jada. It's because of Purusha Sanidhya that it starts creating, assuming there is a kind of induction happening. It's an induced empowerment that happens there. But here it says, Swatantraha alupta prabhava. It's always there. Its prabhava is never lupta. Alupta prabhava evam vishwa nirmatri. She is the one which creates because she is pure consciousness, she is Sinmai. And Varna Rupa Aštaveda, and there are these eight categorized. You categorize them in eight forms. And Spotadi Dhvani Rupini, how she manifests herself. We will have a little discussion on that. Spotadi. Then there are different ways it manifests. Spota Vada of this is Bhartruhari, and he had a great influence on the Kashmiri Saivism. And they said that Sabda is Nitya, and this whole Sansara, this whole universe has come out of sound. They, for example, in Bible also say that in the beginning of the world, it has a striking similarity with the philosophy of Bhartrihari. So that's what he's saying, that Spotadi Dhvani Rupini Kriya Sakti Maheshwari. That is how she becomes that Kriya Sakti. So I'll tell you, there is something called Paravak. Okay. And then you have this Pashyanti, then a Madhyama, then a Vaikhari. When it comes to the Vaikhari level, then the sound becomes audible. One, when it is pure subtle, you can't make sense of its presence. Then it's articulated in thought. Okay. So Para, Pashyanti, then a Madhyama, then a Vaikhari. When it is Vaikhari, then it is Thula. It has some presence. It has a sound form. Matrukasa Vinirdishta Kriya Saktir Maheshwari Kriyakya Paramasatu Sarva Vangmaya Rupini. Matrukasa Vinirdishta. She is the mother force. Kriya Saktir Maheshwari. And she is Maheshwari Shakti Kriyakya Paramasatu. And it is the ultimate Kriya and Sarva Vangmaya. And you see, any words, whatever we say, ultimately we can trace it to that. That is the most important. That whatever we see, we can ultimately trace it to that tattva. That is the most important thing about it. And that's why he's saying mantranang matru bhutatu matraka parameshwari buddhista madhyama bhutva vibhakta bahuda bhavet mantranang matru bhutacha. So you see, mantras are also chanted in different ways. So one time is that you will chant in a loud voice, you can chant the mantras. Sometimes mantras you just whisper, you just like a diaphragm, your tongue is making some very subtle movements and it's not making any explicit audible voice, inaudible sound. And then when it is in the mind, it's called madhyastha. It has some thought formation, some vibration in the brain, but it's not assuming any sound form. Buddhista madhyama bhutva vibhakta bahuda bhavat. Then madhyama, then vaikhari. Then assumes a sound form. Sa punaha kramavedena maha mantratmana tatha. And then she again goes back. Mantratmana cha vedadi sabdakarena swataha. Then you see the Vedas and the Puranas and the mantras and everything. Shame Parasakti, Adimata. That divine mother is assuming different forms. That is why we refer to Veda as Shruti Bhagavati. You see, everyone we address her as mother. Like Bhakti in Bhagavatam, if you read, it's Bhakti's mother. Jnana Vairagya are her two children. And she's very sad. She says, I was born in Dravida. I went to Karnataka. I became a young girl. And then, I had two children. And then I went to Maharashtra. And there was some respect, some feeding. Moment I went to Gujarat, she mentions, because these people are very commercial, money-minded, earthly-wise, I became Jirna. I became suddenly old with my children, both my boys. They become old men, and then I came to Vrindavan, I regained my youth. I became a colorful, youthful lady. But I'm so sad that my two sons are old men, even though I'm young. And Narada is solving that Jnana Vairagya are not getting an attention. That's why they are lying there. So ultimately, you see the whole imagination that Jnana and Vairagya cannot be there without bhakti. This is the mother of Jnana and Vairagya. Similarly, all this, ultimately, it is that Parasakti out of which whole this mantra Vijnana and everything, all sadhana, all satsang, we can trace it to that, that Matri Shakti. Sarve Varnatmaka mantra, Techa Sakyatmika Priye. Bhagavan is telling Lord Shiva to Parvati. Sarve Varnatmaka mantraha. All the mantras that we are talking about. First, he has said already, Chitta mantraha. Mantra and the mind, they are not two different things. That's only one. So there is an emphasis on realizing that duality is only for the benefit of our sadhana. Duality is not real. Duality is not real. It's for our sadhana. For example, Vedanta will say Tattvamasi, Jiva Brahmaiva Naparaha. All of us is that Brahma Tattva. Doesn't mean you can sit and relax. No. For sadhana, okay, you have to go to temple. You have to do that duality. You have to bring into practice in order to purify yourself. But it's the same thing that when you purify, there will be a time you will yourself realize the divinity in you and you will not feel like going to any temple or anything. That doesn't mean you have lost bhakti. You are embodying bhakti in yourself. The duality is lost because you are becoming pure divine. So he's saying Saktistu Matrika Gya, Sacha Gya, Shivatmika. And that Sakti is called Matrika, the Varna Matrikas, Sacha Gya, Shivatmika. And what is the foundation of that Sakti? Shivatmika. She is full of that Shiva consciousness. Ya Satu Matrika Devi Paratejaha Samanvita Daya Vyaptam Idam Vishwam. That Matrika Devi, that Parashakti, Paratejaha Samanvita, that luminous, that dazzling luminosity, all pervading luminosity of the divine mother force. Daya Vyaptam Idam Vishwam. This whole universe is pervaded by that Shakti. Sabrahma Bhuvanantakam. Starting with the Param Brahma, the subtlest, and the gross physical universe. The subtlest of all subtle worlds and the most physical of all tangible realities. The most gross among all tangible realities, starting with the most gross to the most subtle, the subtlest. Sea is present everywhere. Sea is pervading everything. Now they give this example, like in a huge banyan tree, what is fructified as a big tree is that seed. Similarly, this whole, that that seed and that yoni, they call it, that these two tattvas together are explaining the fountainhead of this whole samsara, this Mahatripura Sundari. She's Paravak. Okay, she's Paravak means she's beyond all words. She's Paravak. There is no words, no mantras, nothing. So now we have already more or less sort of dealt with all aspects of this, and finally, so what I is trying to mention is that in order for us to understand this, we have to touch upon a little more, dwell on these aspects and Varnodaya, how these Varnas appear. So first thing is Paravarnodaya, and then Shukshma and Sthula. Para is what is completely pure and subtle without name and form. So Paratara and Paratama Varnodaya. And then out of this, then you have Paratara and Paratama, and from the subtle Shukshma Taka, you have Sukshma Varnodaya, Shukshma Varnodaya, Shukshma Sthula Varnodaya. You see how they are telling the story that the reality, when first it starts taking shape, is perhaps the most subtlest. Slowly it starts taking shape, means becomes more and more visible. When it becomes very visible, we call it a reality because we can see it. And when we cannot see it, we think the process of creation hasn't started. That the process of creation has started is because from relative to us, that's what, like for example, we go to watch a movie or we go to see a play. which is on a stage. It's going to be played out by the artists. So some people will say this all darkness, but already some people will be coming to make the stage ready for the play. But when the lights are on and then somebody enters, then we know the play has started. It is like this. The Srishti Prakriya, it starts at a moment of great subtlety, which is beyond the reach of anybody's mind because we are not even there. And then, relative to our buddhi, we say this is how it started, like we say Big Bang. Everything starts from there. Okay, and then there is a lot of discussion on it, and I'm not trying to get into all that. So there's a big science, and so it's very difficult to sort of. So this basic thing is like this: you have Shiva and a Shakti, and that Matrika Mahamantra, Shiva Shakti, that this is the Swarupa that we have to understand. This is Swarupa of Shiva Shakti, and that Sri Chakra, and that is a kind of a reflective image. It's kind of a mirror image of that Parashakti. Okay, so that is how he's saying, and they're saying how the creation happens. There is an imagination that there is a Savdi Srishti and Arthi Srishti. Artha means ontological, real. Okay, a metaphysical creation, and then you have a wordy creation. Okay, creation at the level of articulation or language, Shavadi. And then, so you have Savada Brahma, out of which you have Savdi Srishti, then you have the Arthi Srishti. So in the beginning was the sound. That's where I'm saying that the influence of Bhartrihari on Kashmiri Saivism is very great. So you have the Savdi Srishti, and ultimately your Arthi Srishti means the gross physical universe. Everything starts with and ha. This whole creation is within that and ha. That is what it is saying. So you have Savdamai, Arthamai, Chakramai, and Dehamai. These are these four levels Bhaskara Raya mentions. That these are the, and I was just telling you that Sadadva. And then there is a further elaboration on this. If you look at the Shakti Chakras, so you have that Paravak or Tripura Sundari, which is Swatantra Rupa, is Paravak. So imagine there are several concentric circles. The outer circle is that Tripura Sundari or Paravak, which means extremely subtle, no sound. Then you have Pashyanti, and that is what? That is Varnatmika. But remember that the second one, Pashyanti, we have already mentioned that when it comes to the Buddhi, it will become Madhyama. Okay, so Pashyanti is also Sukshma. So there comes, and then it becomes Madhyama. In the middle is the Vaikhari. That Vaikhari Vak is the one where the Savdi Srishti will turn into Arthi Srishti. That Vaikhari, that wordy reality, the sound reality. Okay, so you have Sabda Brahma, then you have Vija and Yoni, Shwara, and the Vyanjanas, right? Sabda Brahma. And then you have Vija, Shwara, and Vyanjana Yoni. And then you have a Trikona, okay? So you have one inverted and one this. You have looked at the Sri Chakra. Yeah, there's some, Durga is actually an inverted triangle, and Shiva is an upright angle. So you can just put an inverted triangle and you can worship it. That is Shakti, Yantra. And if you do, if you like that devil seal, which if you look at Israel or not, you have these like Sri Aurobindo Ashram also, that's Shiva and Shakti together. So one is that Anuttara Rupa, Akara and Akara. So O-A, then you mix that E, Ichha Shakti, then it becomes Ekara. Then you have that Ekara, and then that Shiva and Shakti, Aham. Hang is Shakti, is Shiva Shakti. This is how they are the Divya Dampati, Purnahanta. Purnahanta is what? Remember, when Maya comes to grapple with reality and we become victims of it, you have two insufficiencies which makes us feel miserable. One is Apurna Manyata, the other aspect is Swatantra Hani. Apurna Manyata, why? Because you are now separated from the Shiva Tattva in our consciousness. Now, if you want to have Purna Manyata, why are we unhappy? Because we are not reconnected with that Shiva Tattva or our pure consciousness. And Swatantra Hani, we are always dependent on others. We are dependent on external circumstances, internal sanskaras, everything. That's Swatantra Hani. We think we are trapped. And once we do this sadhana, we can reconnect with our pure essential nature. That is the journey inwards, return to the Shiva Tattva. That is the all sadhana about. And how to do it. And therefore, there's a beautiful thing. Sa vidya ya vimuktaye. That is that paravidya. Ya vimuktaye. Jisse mukti milegi. That by which you get liberation, that through which you are ascending to the highest plane, that is Mahavidya, that is Matrika Devi, Mantrana Matrika Devi. Therefore, through this, you will return to that Shiva Tattva. So this is how, more or less, a little cluttered, and because there are so many schools of thought which had to be brought in to make sense of it. But it was 3 classes is more than enough. I hope to get some brief sense. But if you take deeper interest on this mantra Vijnana as per the Kashmir Saivism, there are more books to read. So we'll stop here today. And in the class on Saturday, we will now go to the next sutra. We are sort of bringing this discussion to a close because we have almost spent 3 hours on this. We are bringing any questions. We have 1 or 2 minutes because we have actually quite some time. So any questions you have, any of you?
Yes. Is it possible to have like a chart or something? Because I
Yes,
heard
yes.
it and then now we're all muddled up in my head. So
Okay. No. I was thinking, actually, I was looking for that image. I have got 2 images, actually 2 JPG images that I found in some Kashmiri Saivism website, very useful images. So I'll put it in the group. I was planning to share it on the screen so that that can also be shown on the YouTube. But anyways, don't worry. So what I'll do is that I'll put it, and all of you will see that in the group. I'll share it. So we'll do the Santi mantras with this.